so happy.
Morning and welcome. Welcome to the meeting of the members, directors, governance and audit committee, and welcome to the hearing room of the City Planning Commission. Just before I do introductions, let's just say that for those who are listening, the Theater Subdistrict Council was founded in 2000, soon after modifications to the zoning resolution in 1988 that created the Theater Subdistrict Council. The express goals of the Theater Subdistrict Council, as stated in the zoning resolution, include enhancing the long-term viability of Broadway by facilitating the production of plays and small musicals within the theater district and developing new audiences for all types of theater productions. Make some introductions. Amy Slattery, Director of Budget and Capital Projects with the Borough President's Office. Daniel Grodnick, Director of the Department of City Planning. Lori Cumbo, Commissioner, Department of Cultural Affairs. David Henry Huang, who is a member and a director. Paige Price, who is a member and a director. And Barbara Janowis, who is our administrator of the program. I'm Dominic Answini, and also here is Jacqueline Jacobs of our finance department here at Department of City Planning. Okay. Any remarks by anyone here who would like to speak about the start? Okay, great. And I did introduce everybody, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's start with some of our corporate housekeeping. On page 4 of the package, which is entitled Theater Subdistrict Council Local Development Corporation Meeting of Members and Directors, is this one right here? The other one is the annual report, but I'm talking about this document right now. On page 4, there's the conflict of interest disclosure statement. If that could please be filled out, if you haven't filled it out yet, and leave it here, and we will collect it. That's a requirement of the state public authorities law. On page 7, then, of that same package, there's an acknowledgement of fiduciary duties. And if you haven't already signed this one, please do so and leave it. Just want to mention something about training. I think everybody here has done the corporate training that is required by Section 28242 of the Public Authorities Law. However, there's a policy guidance memo that was published in 2017 that says it's best practice to do this training every 3 years. So if someone would like to do the training, you can go to the Department of State website, and there are 3 trainings coming up, one on December 11th at 9:30, one on January 15th at 9:30, and one on January 29th at 9:30. Like I said, everyone here, I believe, has already done this training, but the Department of State recommends a refresher every 3 years. Okay, Madam Commissioner, as the mayor's representative and therefore, by operation of the bylaws, the chair, may I call the meeting of the members to order and begin? You may. Thank you. So first of all, there is a quorum. There are 5 of the members here, so that is a quorum. Okay, so as required by the bylaws, the members must elect themselves to the directorship positions that correspond with their member positions. So can we, with a show of hands, elect the members directors? Okay, thank you. And no one else will be elected director today, of course? Okay. So with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting of the members and now begin the meeting of the directors. And Madam Chair, is that okay? Being the meeting of directors now. It is. Thank you. Okay, meeting of directors. Is there a quorum? Yes, there is a quorum. On page 8 of your package, you will see minutes of last year's meeting. I just want to note the meeting is also still available at the link provided on YouTube. And if there are questions, corrections, anything like that, we can discuss now, or notes can be given to me before we finalize this, the minutes. I don't know if anyone has any questions or notes. Okay. And again, if you have questions or notes, you can contact me anytime after this meeting. Eventually, what we'll do is we'll ask Ms. Slattery, I think we're going to ask you because the borough president is the secretary. Eventually, I'll send you the minutes for finalization. Okay. Okay. Next, David, if we're on to the budget discussion. Oh, okay. Then Jackie, you'll do that. So on page 13 of your package, we're going to discuss the budget, and Jacqueline Jacobs of our finance department will discuss. Thanks. Press the button.
Hi, everyone. We are currently in the fiscal year 25 operating year for the Cedar Subdistrict Council. We are beginning this year with a budget with $192,891 in assets. We expect that between this fiscal year and fiscal year 28, we will have minimal operating expenses, and that at the end of the fiscal year 28 period, we will have a projected fund balance of roughly $150,891. I think we do need to discuss the adoption of the fiscal year 26 budget. If you turn to page 16 of the packet, we are expecting to spend roughly we're expecting a net change of roughly $9,500 in the Cedar Subdistrict fund. So we expect to end that year with $169,891. If there's no objections to the FY26 proposed budget, we would like to request to adopt it.
Can I pose a quick question? I'm sorry, just before we go into that. The income from interest and income and in-kind donations, exactly the same every year.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The interest fluctuates year to year, so we're kind of using like a multi-year average, which is why we set it at 2,500. This year, the previous operating year, we brought in a little under 4,000 in interest, but in prior years, we have seen less than 2,000, so this is really, an average. It could be more, it could be less.
Got it. Okay, understood. Thank you. All right. Sorry, I know there was a motion, so let me get out of the way of that.
Second. Okay, thank you. So the motion to adopt the budget for 25-26 is passed.
Well, let's vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I vote aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, aye. All right, good. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so, Jacqueline or David, anything else to talk with regards to the budget?
Just a note, the board had asked us to look into cheaper auditing options. We again applied to the Attorney General to waive our audit. We were again rejected. We are always open to pro bono services if anyone has any idea, but we have not been able to identify someone to assist in that regard, mostly because of the nature of the TSC as a public authority. That has been the challenge. And also, we took a look at our money market account, which is the primary holding of the TSC, to take a look at the interest that is allowed there versus bonds and other backed securities that are performing. So we're working with our Chase Bank team to figure out the best, still within the boundaries of our TSC investment guidelines, but the best return for the money that we have.
Does the city retain any professional accounting services with any broader contracts, either for an agency or for other authorities, or?
So the city has many contracts for the authorities that are city-based, but because the TSC straddles, they have been deemed not eligible by previous comptrollers. That is something we can raise with Comptroller Lander.
Could the Theater Subdistrict Fund allocate $5,000 of our budget to a city agency that has an existing contract to allow them to cover our accounting and auditing requirements for us? I say 5,000. Be great if they could do it for a smaller number or no number, but I'm wondering if we can enter into an agreement with a city agency for the purpose of allowing such a thing to be possible. And this is me thinking out loud, and you may have explored it, but I just, as we've discussed, this is the biggest annual expenditure for a budget that is not large and doesn't have much activity. So the idea that we're, just subsidizing accounting and auditing firms every year, to me, is not where we should be. I know that everybody agrees with that, but any chance on something creative like that? Because I'm sure that others would agree with me that it'd be better for us to spend a small amount to do this, through another route. But I don't know if that's even possible.
Fully agree with you. These costs are insane for what is actually occurring. We bid these contracts out under state procurement rules, and to find another partner to do it, it would have to be, we can look into it. DCP could not do it, for example, because we need to maintain separation of duties, but we're looking for someone independent. I think the best bet is following up with the comptroller yet again to request that they include the TSC in some of their other auditing duties. But Jackie, do you have an idea?
And to add to that, I think that it's something that we can definitely explore. We would just have to make sure that if we are going to leverage another agency's contract, that it was procured following the TSC's procurement guidelines.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for your efforts on this. I know this is a complicated one, but I think it's worth our continuing to pursue.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'd like to move to the annual report, which is the other package that's provided. The Public Authorities Accountability Act requires that the board approve an annual report. And I don't know if there are any questions on the annual report. And if there are not, then the council will need to adopt by motion the annual report.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Vote to approve the annual report?
I vote aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, grant making update from our grants administrator, Barbara.
There's been no grants made, so,
Barb-
minimal update. No update, really, because there have been no grants made, but it is great to see that some of the programs that were originally funded by the Theaters of District Council in prior years have been sustained by the institutions. Not all of them, and not all of them were made to be sustainable. But we see work at New 42 that we funded that still goes on, Atlantic Theater Company's Staging Success Program in the schools, Pregonis and Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, Public Works down at the Public Theater, New York Theater Workshops, Administrative Fellows, Manhattan Theater Club's Stage Management and Production Interns. There's a lot of things that we had initially funded that have become incorporated into the operations of these theaters. So it's good to see that. That's all I got.
I have a question. So for the grants that we're seeing in past years, when the organizations are allocated the funds, is it similar to city funding in that all of the money has to be spent in that year, or can they program it out into outer years in terms of how they spend it and how they report on it?
It was all within the scope of the grant agreement. So usually they were 18 months, and they received 80% full initially, and then after their final report, so it was within the scope of that grant period, then they received the last 20%.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, or shall we move? Okay. I just wanted to, because it impacts grant making, I just wanted to, and this is on the first page of the annual report, just an update as to the application that was received by and approved by the City Planning Commission in 2022 to transfer floor area from the Ambassador Theater to 740 8th Avenue in Manhattan. And at the time, the amount of floor area that was going to be transferred was about 81,000. The commission approved this, and that was going to mean about $2 million that would be transferred eventually to the theater subdistrict fund when the actual transferable development rights were transferred from the theater to the development site. That didn't happen. Later, they came to the Department of City Planning, that is the Schubert Theater Group, and said, well, we wanted to reduce the amount to 77,000, which would mean about 1.9 million into the theater subdistrict fund. And lastly, as of now, as of a few weeks ago, the Schubert Group came to us and said, what they want to do, and this is actually moving forward to at our agency, to reduce the amount of transfer to 56,485, which would mean about 1.4 million into the theater subdistrict fund. I don't think, based on the discussions we've been having, that this is going to change further. Mm-hmm. When we can process the modification of that approval, the Schubert Theater Group has said that they would like to move forward quickly with the deposit of that 1.4 million. So we may actually be close to replenishing some of the funds in the theater subdistrict fund. And that's all the information I have at this point. Okay. Next is officer elections. And historically, and as we've done it, the Director of City Planning was the treasurer, the Commissioner of Cultural Affairs was CEO, Borough President was Secretary, and the Speaker was the Vice Chair. Doesn't have to be that way, but if we would like to continue this, we would need a motion to re-elect those officers, and also David and myself hold positions as officers. You're the Chief Financial Officer, and I'm the Chief Contracting Officer. So, if anyone has any questions about that, but otherwise, can we have a motion and a vote to re-elect the officers?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay.
We vote aye.
Vote?
Aye.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, now, Madam Chair, we're going to briefly adjourn the meeting of directors for the audit committee meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So this will be, calling the audit committee meeting to order. Now, okay. Our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Parrish, will present the audited financial statements, and they're on page 17 of the package.
First, an apology. First, I was late. Second, I see that some of the financial numbers on some of the audit pages are cut off, so we will email you a new version of the packet. However, the auditor's letter is in there in full. Wayway Incorporated was the auditor for this year. Again, they won a competitive procurement under state procurement rules, and they provided us audit services. This was a clean audit. There were no irregularities found. There were very few transactions. I think we had 3 transactions this year, so there was not really much to audit. They reviewed our internal procedures, in-kind donations from the City of New York, which includes staff salaries, offices, et cetera. Any questions on the audit? No. And we will send the revised documents to everyone.
Okay, so, we'll need a motion and a vote to adopt the audited financial statements.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
and a vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, on page 33 of the package, it's the assessment of internal controls, and the Public Authority Law requires that the Theater Subdistrict Council conduct an annual assessment of the internal control structures and procedures, and this assessment has been prepared in coordination with the Chief Financial Officer. The internal audit assesses the major business functions of the organization, managing the Theater Subdistrict Fund, procurement, things like that. Now, on the auditor statement on page 31 of the package, which is actually page 12 of the auditor statement, but 31 of our package indicates that the auditor did think that our internal controls were good. So if there are any questions about that, but otherwise, we'll need a motion and a vote to approve the assessment of internal controls for 2024-25. And David, you want to say something?
I just wanted to note that many of our internal controls are governed by state law, so they're pretty solid.
So our auditor said our controls were good, and our actual controls are defined by state law. Yeah. So therefore, couldn't be amended in any event. Okay. Then it has my support.
Second.
Aye.
Vote? Okay, good, thank you. Okay, and if there's no further business, I'd like to adjourn the audit committee meeting, and that's okay with everybody? And then go to the governance committee. And Madam Chair, I'd like to open the governance committee. Acceptable? To open the, okay, great. Okay, so on page 44 of your package, there's one item for this agenda, and that's the board member evaluations page. Now, this is, the Public Accountability Act requires this. It needs to be anonymous, so if you could, just leave those pages here, not with your name on it. It's a survey as to how you think that the council is doing in terms of board performance, and we have to collect those in fulfillment of the Public Authorities Accountability Act. Okay? There is no further business beyond that for the governance committee, so Madam Chair, I'd like to, if it's okay with you, to adjourn the committee and get back to the main meeting of directors.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. So we're back to the meeting of directors. The Public Authorities Law requires that the Theater Subdistrict Council annually review and readopts its procurement policy. And you'll find that on page 37. And also, the committee needs to review and readopt its investment guidelines, which you will find on page 43.
Dominic, sorry, do these need a quorum vote? Looking at Amy's time.
This is I think the last thing that needs a quorum vote. Okay. Okay, so this would be a motion and a vote to adopt again, which they really haven't changed since last year, the, investment guidelines and the procurement policy.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the corporate business. We're at the stage in the meeting where there can be a discussion if anyone has ideas. I think that one thing, the discussion can go where it go. I think just a really important thing that's happened this year is we really seem like we're going to receive some funds, and I think we should inform the council, I guess, as soon as that money is deposited. In fact, I think we're supposed to anyway, by our bylaws. So that's all I have to say. If anyone has anything else to add.
I think the only thing I would add, if I may, is really just the point that I think we'll have to grapple with at some point, if and when the transfer happens, and we have, I think the number was $1.4 million in the account, as to what the future is of this fund. If it's a draw it down, spend it all, or if it is find a way to, create some sort of a perpetuity where we could do annual things forever. I don't know what the right answer is to that question, but it is always interesting to me to know what the maximum number of potential transfers and funds looks like versus that question, because we'll either have one shot at it, or we'll have the ability to build up a nest egg and allow it to continue making allocations forever. And I think that's just at least something that we will have to grapple with as a group. I don't know if there are limitations in our ability to invest and grow funds, and what those limitations are. I know we have an investment guidelines that are right in front of us, but I don't know if there's anything more beyond that for us to consider.
What he said.
Director Grodnick is correct. On page 43, which you just approved, the investment guidelines are, I'd say, quite conservative, which makes sense for a public authority. I think maybe when the money is finally received, it will go into these accounts managed by our finance department, and if we can have a discussion as to whether we think that, based on New York State law, how much these guidelines can be modified. But I believe, Michaela of our counsel's office has done some research, and I think you'd agree that relatively the guidelines on the state level are still very conservative. It's public authority money, and the idea is that it must be invested in very safe investments.
Yes, I have to agree. Hello. After looking at the public authorities law and New York State law, the kinds of investments that can be made are quite limited, and our investment guidelines have been drafted to reflect that accordingly. Something to point out, sort of the main standard overall for these investments is legality, safety, liquidity, and reasonable return.
I will note that, in talking to Citibank, there are a variety of newer financial products tailored to nonprofits that fall within the other guaranteed government securities bucket that have been engineered to both be insured, conservative still, but draw a higher rate of return than a traditional interest account. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. It's not, dramatic, but those are things that we can do.
Are we aware of any other potential air rights transfers being discussed right now?
I don't know of any at this point.
Have we calculated in the past, I think we have, the total universe of potential air rights transfers, recognizing that just because they're potential does not mean that anything would happen?
We have, and I can't remember what that number is right now.
Well, we don't need to do this today, but
it was pretty significant.
A lot.
significant.
Yeah. 200 million, was it? I think I just saw it actually.
It was a reasonable number.
Yeah.
Right,
More
okay.
reasonable than what we're talking about now.
Okay.
We have done grant cycles with this kind of total total in the bank. So, you know, it's not impossible. We have done grant cycles that totaled 1.3 million, 1.2 million. But we take your point.
And I'm not certain what the right answer is, just to be clear. I just, you know, there's a value to this, and it would be nice to find a way for it to live on. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think this will conclude the meeting, but I'll ask you first. I just want to say one thing that, as I noted, when we do actually receive that money, we will inform the council that it's there, and then we'll see, you know, if we need to have a follow-up meeting. We'll always have the annual meeting around this time of year, but the money will probably be deposited, I think, before then. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
I think to that point, when the money does become available, or even prior to it becoming available, so that we're not in this, the challenges, I guess, in terms of the frequency of the amount of meetings that we have, is that maybe some ideas that are approached in one meeting, because we're not repeatedly having weekly conversations or monthly conversations, we can kind of get, we can kind of remain in the same place. So I feel like for this round of funding, the ideas that Commissioner Grodnick brought forward, it would be great if we could start to really flesh those out so that we don't get into a cycle of we're on a time clock and the time clock has started, so we have to continue to do it the way we've previously done it, versus an opportunity to discuss how we could potentially do it differently.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, we can certainly do that on the financial end and connect with Barbara also on grant ideas so we can put forward scenarios.
And connect with council members.
Mm-hmm.
Any number of... There's any number... Danielle?
Danielle? Happy to help with that. Okay.
Great.
That's
There's any
wonderful.
number of directions we can go in, and the
That's
question
right.
is, what direction does the council want to go in?
That's right.
We can do, similar programs that we've done in the past, funding education programs, audience development programs, jobs programs.
Mm-hmm.
We can go in a new direction. It's not the hugest amount of money in the world. So what do we think is going to make the most significant impact?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
If I may, I found the number for you. It's the total potential, $34.9 million.
All right.
Okay. Madam Chair, shall we bring the meeting to a close?
Thank you all for your participation and for your ideas. We are now going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting, and I look forward to seeing all of you at the next meeting. I make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.